if somebody is slightly naive, but they're not distorted towards power. So basically, you have this distortion to power that that people have, but then on the other side, you have people who might be considered slightly naive, and they can almost allow themselves to be misled because they are innocent, and they're not being overly careful, whereas people who might be distorted to power, who have many distortions, they are being very careful. They are very compartmentalized. They are want to control. And you were saying about how people who are narcissistic, they will eventually expose themselves.
But you have to also understand that the desire to control arises from some kind of traumatic perception of reality, or distorted perception of reality. Because where the person feels that I was hurt, reality hurt me in whichever way, in the form of people, in the form of events or something. So now I need to gain that control. And so this sort of distortion, like towards control, towards being a control freak, you can say, arises from the point of, it arises from fear of being again and again hurt. Now, naivety, which you talk about, is actually is ignorance. So there is no, when there is purity, there is an absolute purity. There is also clarity. Now, clarity doesn't mean that, okay, I'm just clear on the account of world and reality and emotions. No, it's a very deep perception of self, which gives you that clarity of various obvious and not very obvious phenomena, or different subtleties, you may say, of reality. But naivety is basically equals to ignorance at the moment. Because let's say people are kind and sweet and they believe in good world. And if you tell them that the world you're living is very far from your imagination, they become angry. Because they choose, it's a choice. It's a choice of consciousness to live for a while in a bubble. But it's a choice of a victimized being. One way or the other, all of these people are victimized. And this way that they get cheated, manipulated, deceived is in a way the path for them, the natural path through life and life circumstances, to realize that. But it's also a risky path, because by having these experiences, they have a risk to go and get more victimized within themselves and pursue different distorted paths afterwards. So most of the people who go through these experiences of being cheated, deceived, which is everyone, because that's what this reality and manifestation so far at this point of time and space offers us in the form of experience. So, but some people choose to feel like victims. I am a victim, life is against me, and they propel this more and more from within. And so life offers them more and more such experiences until they realize that it comes from within. Because there could be an original experience that caused them this feeling of being disempowered, yet they could not let go and step over that experience. They continued to develop it or nurture that experience of being a victim within themselves. They couldn't step over. And they actually started feeding off that experience. So they created a hole that needs to be fed or filled up. And that's why they need more and more experience where they would feel that they are right in their distorted perception of reality as victims. And they need to sort of continue on the same path or down spiral towards more and more disempowered, low, victimized, because somewhat they are right. They need to be right. So the biggest problem in the world is born from out of righteousness. And this righteousness can be absolutely absurd. Yes, I am naive, so what? Let me experience, let people hurt me more. You know, this is the sign of absolute ignorance, confusion, and yet deep victimization. And so until the person realizes that, they will, you know, propel these thoughts, these emotions, they will feed off these thoughts. These thoughts and emotions will arise in the field of their consciousness, and they will subconsciously, you can say, subconsciously means that they will kind of try to, they will be pulled towards the situations where they will be abused, used, I don't know, cheated, deceived more. Because then it will be reflected back to them and they'll feed off that. And that feeding of that means self-pity. So when people say, oh, I'm so naive, naive means you don't know and you don't want to know at that point. You refuse to see the obvious. And all of us have experienced that one way or the other. There's no exception to that. Every one of these current beings have been one way or the other in this situation where we were disinformed, unaware. So naivety, in a way, is the opening to any kind of negativity, because it's ignorance, unawareness, or sometimes it can be based on this desire to be in a sweet pink bubble and not to face reality. Like you see many times, people don't want to look at terrible pictures or something that is frightening because they project it back to themselves, because they don't have this deep contentment within themselves. So whatever they see outwards sort of is taken for their extension and defines them. You understand? So that's why they can, if you show them something sad, they will empathize. They will empathize because they find connection with that pain within themselves. So you ask me also, like, what can be the solution for that? In a way, this life is not about problems and solutions, because all of them are very subjective. You always perceive them personally. It's your personal drama. It's these people's personal drama, that person's personal drama, and that's it. So nothing is happening, but it is happening within. It's the way you digest, process the world. And the way you digest and process the world will define your reality. And so what's the solution is to awake to the fact that this is not any kind of a very evolved ascending to the golden age era. It's the era which teaches you about deception, about manipulation, about naivety and ignorance of yourself. And it's based on self-forgetfulness. The system doesn't teach you that. The parents don't teach you that. So there is no parampara. Parampara means the previous generations are keeping the link. What was the lineage in the past? Keeping the link of passing on the knowledge about the reality, themselves, and so on to the children. This link is broken. So since this link is broken, there is no continuity in passing accurate knowledge, information, and experience to the further generations. Plus, we have all this social media, which disrupts understanding of reality completely. It removes the historical fact. It offers confusion by offering all kinds of confused facts. And so you may just choose, and people think that they are entering some kind of a restaurant where there is a menu and there are all kinds of historical opportunities or historical evidences, and you may choose them depending on your preference. Most of the young people comprehend life through preferences. They think that, oh, I like this color, and if I like the purple unicorn, and I like the yellow unicorn. And then there is this idea that the yellow unicorn is different from the purple, but it's one and the same thing. And the distinction is very superficial. The same thing we have in the scientific community, where people argue about such trivial and absolutely unimportant things, trying to prove their point, when there's nothing to prove. And we don't know the history. Everything we know is false, 100%, 1000%. So the majority of the facts are twisted, and they are not in their original form. And it applies to absolutely every piece of science. So now naivety, we have not only now social naivety, we have also political naivety, we have religious naivety, spiritual naivety, and scientific naivety, where everybody is subjected to the knowledge corruption. You know why? Because there is such a science as knowledge management. Knowledge management was created in order to keep people ignorant and naive about the wholesomeness of the projects, or the whole projects that were running by big corporations. So the same point was probably taken from political management, political knowledge management, where no one knows exactly what's going on in its wholesome way or wholesome sense. Everybody knows about reality in a very obscure, divided, and minuscule way, where you can just see a little point and you think, oh, I guess this is reality. Now the other person sees it from a different point of view. So it means that the entire reality, let's say it's a mirror, it's crashed and you see a splinter and you think, okay, the splinter defines the essence of the mirror. To some degree it does, but still, if you start looking and measuring that splinter, okay, one is elongated, one is round, one is triangular, and you base your notions of reality on that shape, on that little fragment. And so all our sciences are like that, because even you can, nowadays, you don't see one scientist entirely working on one project. There are hundreds of scientists, and all of them just know little information. So no one exactly knows where this project is going and who is going to be benefiting from it. So there is absolute, this principle of ancient Romans, it's called, in Latin it would be divide al impera, so divide and conquer. I might be wrong with my Latin, but divide and conquer. This principle is at the core of our current reality, and this has been there for a long time. It was the way to degradation from Dwapar Yuga, from all these other more advanced ages. But Dwapar Yuga is not any kind of very advanced age either. But this has been the way to degrade, divide people and conquer them, divide them as nations, divide them as tribes, divide them as individuals. So now we have psychological division, which is, besides the fact that we were already divided as nations, as, you know, people that belong to something, and our collective sense of being was distorted and divided. Now we are so divided into, on the spiritual level, that just think about it. It's not only that the collective consciousness became a prey to some force, negative force or whatever force, the force that wants to divide. But that force wants each and every individual being to have a splitted, divided reality. And that's where all our mental issues come from. Every person is currently living within their own mental asylum, which is their body, because their personality is traumatized, victimized, splitted. Their reality is not wholesome, and they just keep on running around through this restless race, searching for some solution. That's where all the spirituality is solution-based. Because we are so preoccupied with trying to collect back our reality within ourselves, collect ourselves back to unity. And yoga is not about being in unity, because yoga is complete awareness of self on a subatomic level, on the level that so far is so far and beyond our any perception and imagination that should we even gone or shouldn't be going there. All we should be doing is trying to collect our power back to ourselves by realizing our contentment and simplicity of life. That's all. Because so far, this reality led us to such a deep corruption as the corruption of our literally direct psychological, essence, or it's not a psychological, but it's like on a psychological level, we're disturbed. It's our very, psycho-spiritual level of being, which is now divided and gradually conquered, because we are drawn by drama, all these emotions that are draining us. And we are just like energy hubs for all kinds of powers to feed of us, So, and naivety is the key and the primary root. Naivety means ignorance, that we propel because we do not search for the truth within. We need to find this truth from outside. So we empower oracles, healers, teachers who have no experience. There's drama in their personal lives as well, but we project the power onto them. All these corrupt gurus, all these occultists, all these tantrics, all these people who employ old concepts, old ideas, some, entities to control life, to feed off your weaknesses. If you realize that, you bring your power back to yourself. You no longer question, because the moment you ask someone outside of yourself, hey, what do you think about me? What do you see about me? It means that you prove that you are incapable of seeing yourself, of perceiving yourself clearly. And you open the gate, energetic gate, to all these oracles, all these spiritual charlatans, all the negative entities to deceive you, to manipulate your perception, and so on. And then people wonder, oh, how is it that after that contact with that person or that teacher or that school or that tantric or that occultist, my life went to hell and I don't know what to do? Oh, is it Kundalini awakening? No, it is not Kundalini awakening. It is the sign that you open your gate, you submitted your free will to these people by asking them because you thought that they know more than you do. And by doing this, it's a direct signature and a contract that please get inside my system to let me know what I am, because I'm not able to. No, you should never submit your will by allowing other people to look into you. You may learn from someone. You may take an advice. You may understand something. You may receive something if it's true spiritual transmission, let's say. For example, if you perceive something that is transmitted and you perceive it within yourself as self, there's no sense of division, then you cultivate that. You cultivate that stillness, you cultivate the simplicity. But you are a being that you have to realize, first of all, yourself. You have to understand how you came to exist, all your illusions, all your misconceptions, all your problems, yourself. There are no shortcuts and no quick fixes. If you go for them, you submit your free will and you empower all these people who are already disempowered and narcissistic within themselves, and just wait for such praise as you are, to fill the gap within, to make them feel that they're useful, that they're helping people, that they're healing people, that they're teaching them. True teacher never does it with a goal, because the true teacher has own source of power, which is not defined by the amount of followers, by the amount of people who accept or not accept, because the true teacher is complete and content within themselves. That's where knowledge is pure and it can be perceived as such. And it is not imposing. It doesn't interfere with free wills of other people. It doesn't employ other people. That's all.